Before we get started on a movie review slash rant on the Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild, here's a message to Disney on ruining slash milking the Ice Age franchise. Here it is.
It's time to stop! It's time to stop, okay? No more! Where the are your parents? Who are your parents? I'm gonna call Child Protective Services. It's time to stop!
And now, let's just get this over with. What's up, guys? Jape here, and I'm here today to do a movie review slash rant on the Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild. So before we get into this review slash rant, for those who haven't seen this movie, I highly recommend you to click away this video because there's going to be spoilers in this review, so get out of you if you haven't seen it. But if you have seen this movie, then I guess enjoy this review slash rant. So the Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild, not directed by Michael Furmeyer and Gowan T. Chu, because they just work at Blue Sky Studios and they are now returning to direct this movie, but directed by John C. Duncan, and it tells a story about the escapades of the Possum brothers, Crash and Eddie, who set out to find a place of their own. Together with the one-eyed Buck Wild, they face the dinosaurs who inhabit the Lost World. So that's it for the plot of this movie. Now let's get on to my thoughts on this movie. So yeah. Now, I remember watching this movie the day it just came out on Disney Plus. When I first heard when it was announced back in Disney's Investor Day 2020, I'm mixed with this announcement. On this hand, it looks like a decent idea or an awesome idea for giving Buck Wild an Ice Age spin-off movie, but I'll give it a shot. But on the other hand, why? Why do we need another one? Just end the franchise already, man. But it better be the final one, man. And when the trailer just came out back on Disney Plus Day, after watching it, I was like, what the heck did I just watch? It looks ugly. After watching it, I was not excited before it just came out. Yeah, I was so angry after watching that trailer of how ugly and atrocious it was. And I have watched it with one of my friends on Instagram, and guess what? I'm mixed with this movie, and that's why we're gonna have to talk about this today. So let's get started. Alright, so I'll start with the good qualities, and then we'll get on to the bad qualities of this movie. So yeah, alright, so first off, with the sole exception of Jake Green as Sid, the voice acting, it's not too bad. For example, including Simon Pegg, who got to reprise his role, and his performance as Buck is still as fantastic as ever. And Justina Mikado also did a great acting job as Z, and Utka Mbukar is okay as Orson. Sorry if I butchered or mispronounced that name, but that's okay for that. And despite being pointless recast, Sean Cannon alias Reyes, Vincent Tong, Aaron Harris, Dominique Jennings, and especially Skyra Stone make great impressions of Ray Romano as Manny, Sean William Scott as Crash, Josh Peck as Eddie, Queen Latifah as Ellie, and Dennis Leary as Diego, respectively. Even though the animation is of low quality, the designs of this movie are still true to the previous films, due to Peter Disev returning as the character designer. Additionally, the cave paintings from the beginning and the end are still well drawn, and also stay faithful to the art style when it's 2D, which it's really better, and I like that idea for this. I like how it's faithful to the previous 4 films. So yeah, not to mention, the Lost World still looks pretty most of the time, despite the film's low quality animation, and it was interesting seeing more of it, which I like how they show more of the Lost World, which I want to see more of this, which is a great idea for this. So yeah, most of the characters are surprisingly likable in here. Thankfully, Buck has been reverted back to his fun and enjoyable Dawn of the Dinosaur self instead of his intolerable collision course self, where he is a bit more competent as an adventurer, but still has a bit of a loony side where he mostly talks to vegetables and his own hand. Also, Buck actually gets some character development after encountering C. And also, Manny's frienderization from the last two films was surprisingly undone, reverting him back to his first three movie self. So yeah. And another thing, Ellie, who is not out of character like she was in Collision Course, and she actually gets some character development as her relationship with Crash and Eddie is more explored than before, which is way better than her Collision Course self, to be honest. So yeah. Speaking of which, Crash and Eddie, despite being unlikable at first, are a lot more tolerable here compared to Continental Drift and Collision Course. And they actually do become more likable after Buck is captured by Orson. So they, Z, and Mama Dino can escape as they start to think about the consequences of their own stupidity and even blame themselves for Buck being captured, which is a huge improvement over their portrayal in Continental Drift and Collision Course, where they didn't even care about their friends possibly dying. They decide to train with Z to find the bravery inside them, which is also a pretty good message. And it's also interesting to see Crash and Eddie having character development after spending all the other sequels being just comic reliefs. Even though they were likable and funny in The Meltdown, Dawn of Dinosaurs, A Mammoth Christmas, and The Great Escapade, they also act less like Season 6, 8 Patrick Stars and more like Seasons 1, 15, 31 present Bart Simpson, which it's a way better personalities and a portrayals than their previous two films for Continental Drift and Collision Course. So yeah, speaking of the character, Z, who is a great new character, and the best thing about the movie, similar to Granny and Shira in Continental Drift, and is nicely developed as well, which I like her. I like the new character. I like how Z is getting her own character development, and the character of Z for this movie, she is good, and she is great, and I'm mixed with this character, but I'll talk about the bad qualities about her after all the good qualities during this video. But I'm mixed with her. She's a great character, but I'm mixed with this character. So yeah, despite being a generic villain, Orson at least shows a legit backstory as to how he came to Buck's wife. Unlike the Dino Birds from Collision Course, the same can be said about Z. Also, the concept of a talking dinosaur that wants to rule the Lost World and has past business with Buck is interesting, despite the poor execution, which that concept, it should have executed really well, but sadly, it was executed poorly. The concept was interesting to me, but it was poorly executed. So yeah, it's great to see Mama Dino returning and still likable, which I'm glad that she's back after Dawn of the Dinosaurs. And man, it's been a while since we've seen her. And great to be back, Mama Dino. Despite being out of character, Sid being able to understand Mama Dino is a nice touch to their bond from Dawn of Dinosaurs, which I like the throwback from Dawn of Dinosaurs, and I like how they bring it back for this movie, which it was nice, man. So yeah, to be fair, one of the biggest criticisms of Collision Course is that it had way too many characters. Not to mention that there is little to no way Granny, Shira, Brooke, or Peaches would fit into the story, especially since this is technically a spin-off film about Buck and Crash and Eddie. If it was the main saga movie with Manny, Sid, and Diego, as the main protagonist like the first 5 films, then it would really be a flaw. However, their absence should have been explained, like Shira in the Easter special, as she was sleeping because she went all night hunting with the girls, which it does make a lot of sense since Shira is not appearing in this movie. So yeah, unlike Collision Course, the humor isn't too relevant on the gross out humor or pop culture references, except for the dabbing scene, which I'll talk about that during the bad qualities of the movie. And it stays more true to the era the film is set in, similar to the first 3 films, which I'm glad that they got back their original humor back from the previous films. So yeah, the movie acknowledges Roshan, aka the Ice Age baby, and humans from the first one thing that no other sequel in the franchise did, which I'm glad that they explained for Roshan, aka the Ice Age baby, and the humans for the ending of the first one, since they showed that scene during the opening of the Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild. I'm glad that they showed that. So yeah, for the 2 characters, Buck and Z did not become a couple at all in the movie, breaking the infamous Ice Age cliche where in every movie somebody gets a love interest, which I'm glad that it didn't happen because he is already married to a pineapple. So yeah, at one point, Buck states, "That's what you gotta do in Herd," a key line from the first film implying that he must have got it from many off screen, which I'm glad that he remembered that line from the first film. So yeah, the flashback of Ellie and Crush and Eddie's childhood, it was awesome. No doubt the best scene of the movie, despite feeling a bit out of place for the movie that's supposed to be a Buck spin-off and would fit more into a movie of a main saga, which this is the best scene I ever seen in a movie. And this is way better than the entire movie. And I'm glad that they showed more of the flashbacks of Ellie, Crash, and Eddie. So yeah, the film, it does have some nice callbacks to the previous films, including Ellie's backstory is being explored more than the meltdown. But in this version, we got to see what happened to Crash and Eddie's mother when Ellie lived with them, which I did not expect that their mother just died. I felt heartbroken for that scene. So yeah, the cave paintings of moments like Rashawn, aka the Ice Age baby, which I'm glad that they showed that because they bring back some nostalgia for this. So yeah, and also Mama Dino, who makes a return to this film, which I'm glad that she's back. I already talked about this. Like I said, welcome back to the family, Mama Dino. Speaking of Rashawn, this is the first time that an Ice Age film is not related to the first, makes a reference to the character, which I'm glad that they referenced the character for this movie. I'm glad that it didn't appear in the movie, but it make a reference to the first one. So yeah, the T-Rex babies are mentioned when Z asks Crash and Eddie if they know Mama Dino, and Crash says, "Uh-huh, our friend Sid used to babysit her kids." Unlike Granny, Peaches, Shira, Brooke, Julian, Rudy, and Scratch, who are somehow non-existent here, which I'm glad that they bring back that moment from the third film, and they reference that, which I'm glad they bring back my childhood for this. So yeah, even though not as good as the previous scores, the music is not a bad debut solo for Batu Center, especially with the reuse of John Powell's themes from The Meltdown and Dawn of the Dinosaurs, that would certainly delight Powell's fans. Center had previously composed additional music for John Powell scores, beginning with Pan, which it's really cool for this, but I have never seen Pan. I've heard it's really bad, but I'll watch it to my watch list to see how bad this movie was. And I'm mixed with the score for Batu Center for this movie. So yeah, unlike what the majority of the people think, some of the original Ice Age crew did return, such as John C. Duncan, Worley Fort, Jim Hecht, Peter DeSev, Denise L. Ortina, Mika Dahlberg, Sean England, Holly Dorff, and Jason Harris to return for this movie, which I'm glad that they just returned to work for this movie after they just left for Blue Sky Studios. So yeah, the idea of a spin-off film about Buck is awesome, and it could have been the Puss in Boots of Ice Age, but the fact that Crash and Eddie are the central characters instead of Buck destroys it, which it could have been awesome and interesting to see Buck getting his own spin-off movie. And it could have been like Puss in Boots. Not Crash and Eddie. Buck could have been the main character. Not Crash and Eddie, man. So yeah, the movie would probably be better if Buck, Scrat, and Scratte, and Rudy were the only characters from the first 5 films to appear, while the rest would be new characters like Z, like how Puss in Boots was the only Shrek character to appear in his solo movie, while the rest were new characters like Kitty Softpaws and Humpty Dumpty, which it could have been awesome if they used some of the characters from the third film if they come back for this movie. So yeah, and it would have been also better if it's greenlit as a series, because it gives more time to upgrade the animation as well as to avoid being rushed, which it should have been better if they make a TV series for Disney Plus instead of a movie, which it would be way better than a movie. So yeah. Alright, so that's it for the good qualities. Now let's get on to the bad qualities on why it didn't live. So let's get started. Alright, so first off, we got the quantity over quality. So the Ice Age franchise had already overstayed its welcome, starting with Continental Drift, yet it got worse with Collision Course, which turned Ice Age into a cynical cash grab franchise. However, with this film, Ice Age managed to make an unnecessary and absolutely nonsensical return without Blue Sky Studios for Disney Plus. Much like Home Sweet Home Alone, which that movie was trash to me, but I'll review / rant on this movie someday, hopefully. So yeah. But anyways, as I was saying, even though this project was announced even before Blue Sky Studios shut down, as it was confirmed that the studio had no involvement due to them attempting to work on Nimona, even though Netflix acquired it, which for Nimona, I'm excited to see Nimona because I'm glad that Netflix brought it back. I've been waiting for this since it was announced for Blue Sky Studios, but now it brought it back. And I'm so happy to see this. I can't wait to see this movie when it comes out. So yeah. But anyways, as I was saying, as well as other projects prior to shutting down, including an Ice Age series with Scrat titled Scrat Tales, which I'm going to say this, I will review it once I'm done reviewing the Ice Age Adventures of Buck Cloud. So yeah, hope you understand that after this. So yeah. And the undated, Foster, and maybe even those in development like Mutts, Spore, Alienology, even though Paramount Pictures also wanted to work on it, Anubis, Left Turn, The Iguana Brothers, Horton Hatches a Heg, Baby Because of Dr. Seuss, Frog Kisser, and Escape from Hat. Even though Netflix acquired the film, which I've heard that they're gonna probably might come this year, which I'm excited to see that because I want to see what it looks like. So yeah, sure, this may be a spin-off, and making a spin-off movie about Buck is a great idea, as he is an incredible character, and it could have been the Puss in Boots of Ice Age, but still, you can't milk the Ice Age franchise to death, which it does not make any sense since they have milked it to death. Just revive it into something good, not just milk it to death. God. At the same time, according to those reports, Disney had no intention of hiring these original voice actors given the poor reception of the 5th film, which it was stupid that they didn't bring it back. They should have bring it back for the 6th movie / the spin-off movie for this movie. So yeah, the animation is a massive downgrade from the first 5 films, even when compared to Disney/20th Century Fox Studios' other low-budget CGI animated feature films made for direct-to-video releases in previous years. It looks very low quality, weird, and somewhat horrifying. And it honestly looks like an Unreal Engine game cutscene or a PlayStation 3 cutscene due to its issues with the textures, including the characters' fur. Some of the designs look hideous due to certain facial expressions, which the animation, it looks ugly. I do not like the animation. Give the animation back like from Blue Sky Studios did. Not just this crappy animation. God. Not to mention, it wasn't a great idea to outcome the film's animation to a Canadian studio, since the production of computer animated movies is something recent in Canada, and the majority of the studios out there only use CGI for visual effects and TV shows. It should have also been much if the animation was done at Walt Disney Animation Studios instead, which it should have been way better animation for Walt Disney Animation Studios, not some crappy Canadian company to make this horrifying and ugly animation. God. In addition to that, the film has ton of animation errors, low quality textures, and low poly 3D models. A serious example is because the film treats fur as if it were air and continually passes it through rigid bodies without making it bend or giving it physics general. Even movies with bad animations like North of the North, which I already seen that movie, I'll rewatch Rant someday, hopefully, and Pets United didn't have such noticeable animation errors, which, for those movies, I don't like North North and Pets United, but I'll watch Pets United to see how bad this movie was. Hopefully someday, so yeah. But this doesn't make any sense, man. It was also a missed opportunity to be animated by Real FX Creative Studios, since they made the TV special Ice Age: A Mammoth Christmas, in which their animation looked closer to the Blue Sky Studios animation, which it should have made by Real FX Animation Studios if they do this again, like the TV specials. So yeah, on top of all this basically means that this film was rushed for release. This was especially a problem since it was made into a full-length movie instead of being kept as a TV show, which it was stupid. This should have made as a TV show, not a movie, man. God. With the only exception of Simon Pegg as Buck, none of the cast from the first 5 films reprised their roles and have been replaced by an entirely new voice cast by Canadian actors. While most of the new actors do sound pretty similar to the original actors, Jake Green, Sid's new voice actor, sounds nothing like John Leguizamo, who voiced him in the first 5 movies. In this version, for this movie, he sounds a bit more feminine compared to his usual voice in the movie. This is probably due to John being busy with the well-received Encanto at the time voicing the character, which John Leguizamo, he should have come back for Ice Age: Adventure of the Buck Wild and do Encanto simultaneously at the same time. So yeah, or do something else, like just do Sid for Ice Age: Adventure of Buck Wild without Encanto, or do it for Sid in Adventure of the Buck Wild and then Encanto, man. God, there's some anachronism in a movie. During the campfire scene, Crash and Eddie are seen eating marshmallows, one somehow getting into Eddie's ear, despite the film taking place in the Ice Age, hence the name of the franchise. Marshmallows were not known until as early as the 2000 BC during the ancient Egyptian period. The marshmallows also look a bit like mushrooms too, which, why would they put mushrooms in a movie? They are not known until the 2000 BC. Stop putting mushrooms in the early age, The Ice Age, man. God. While not as frequent as in the previous movie, there are still a few outdated pop culture references, which, really? Why are you still doing pop culture references? We know the pop culture references before. Stop doing pop culture references and do something original, man. God. Well, there is false advertising for multiple reasons for this movie. For example, the misleading title, despite Buck being the titular character, the film focuses more on Crash and Eddie trying to become independent. Because of this, the film may as well will be retitled as The Ice Age Adventures of Crash and Eddie. Like, why would they focus on Crash and Eddie? They should focus on Buck. Well, if they focus on Crash and Eddie, then it should be retitled The Ice Age Adventures of Crash and Eddie. Like I said before, they should focus on Buck, not on Crash and Eddie. God, I hated this. Speaking of which, the movie seems it can't seem to decide who should be the main focus, which, in my opinion, Buck should be the main focus, not Crash and Eddie. Crash and Eddie are just secondary characters. Buck should be the main character. They should focus on Buck. God, they should do that. There is one poster shows Buck in the water and a T-Rex trying to eat Buck. Something that didn't happen in the film, which I thought that this would be in the movie, but sadly, it's not. They lied to us. I hate it when they do that. While the art style looks good and beautiful on these posters for this film, just like the first 5 films, the movie itself has the aforementioned very low quality animation, which they should have done with better animation with the art styles from the posters. Not just this low quality animation. God! Well, in the trailers, which I'm not going to show it, sorry, it appears that Crash and Eddie went back to the Lost World by falling through a hole of ice, but in the movie, they actually go back using a cave system and its bridge made of a dinosaur skeleton from the 3rd movie that was actually destroyed by Buck himself to prevent anyone else from accessing the Lost World, as it can be very dangerous for explorations, which I thought Crash and Eddie just came to the Lost World by falling into the ice, but instead, they do that like in a 3rd film by going to a bridge made of dino skeleton. Why would they do that? That makes 0 sense. God. Well, a lot of characters from the previous films, such as Shira, Peaches, Granny, Brooke, Rudy, Julian, the T-Rex babies, Gavin, and his family too, and even Scrat, are nowhere to be found in this film. While it's understandable in the case of Julian and Peaches, as they presumably left after the events of the 5th film to Rome and start their own family, and also with Granny and presumably Brooke, who stayed behind in Geotopia to stay young. The other characters have no such excuse, especially when references to the movies they appeared in are dropped. This is even more frustrating when looking at the fact that the director, John C. Dawkins, is also the producer of the 1st, 3rd, and 4th film. He literally produced the film where some of these characters were first introduced and play as a major role in, and somehow he completely forgot about them. Which, why would he forgot about it? He should have remembered in his mind that where his characters left off. I know that they are not appeared in this movie, but he should have remembered that and put it as a recap on what happened to those characters in cave paintings, man. God. There are also some other problems too. For example, while Peach's absence is understandable as she moved out with Julian after the events of Collision Course, it's very illogical that Minnie and Ellie never even mentioned their own daughter. Similarly, while Granny's absence is understandable as she stayed back in Geotopia to stay young, it's also logical that Sid never mentions his own relative, which, why would they never mention their own daughter and Sid's relative? They should have mentioned when they talked about her, or I don't know, man. Or sometimes if they appeared in flashbacks. They should have mentioned it if they talked about them on what happened to them, or on the cave paintings, like I said, or if they show the scene on what happened to them on Granny and Julian and Peaches, man. God. And as well as Shira, Brooke, and Scrat aren't mentioned by the characters, and universe reason is given as to what happened to them. Did Shira and Brooke break up with Sid and Diego? Is Scrat still stuck in space? Like, really? Why would they didn't show what happened to those characters? Just show what happened to those characters after the events of their previous films, like in a short film, Scrat Spaced Out, which I did a review / rant. If you want to go check it out, go ahead. We just need to know what happened to Scrat after the short film, and what happened to Shira and Brooke after the 5th film, man. God! The reason for Scrat's absence is supposedly due to Disney losing ownership of the character after his original designer, Ivy Supersonic, won a 20-year trademark dispute over him. That's the same thing as making a Madagascar movie without the penguins, a Hotel Transylvania movie without Johnny, a Toy Story movie without Buzz Lightyear, a Shrek movie without Donkey, a Frozen movie without Olaf, a Despicable Me movie without the Minions, a Real movie without Nigel, a Star Wars movie without Chewbacca, C-3PO, or R2-D2, an Anastasia movie without Bartok, or Rasputin, or Cars movie without Mater and Lightning McQueen. Which, why, man? It doesn't make any zero sense. God. This might have made it impossible for Scrat Tales to be released since Disney no longer owns the rights. However, and despite that, it was released in April 2022, which it proves that Disney didn't lose the rights for that character, which I'm glad that it's a good thing, which I'll review that series after this review / rant. So yeah, hope you understand that. So yeah, which I'm glad that they do this for Scrat Tales. So yeah. However, granted, the main problem with the previous movie is that there are too many characters that add nothing to the plot, but they could have at least been mentioned for this movie, which, why do we need too many characters? Why do we need that? Just give us a few, not just all of it. God, they are just some God, man. Yes, I have a new haircut, actually, so don't make fun of me. Sorry for the delay. So yeah. But anyways, as I was saying, while most of the characters are surprisingly likable, some of them are incredibly lackluster. For example, Buck, who is the titular character of the film, and also, while likable, feels like a plot device wherein he is just there to deliver exposition about the villain. Like, why would he become such a plot device? It doesn't make any sense. He needs to go back into his original self, not just some plot device. Man, God. Crash and Eddie, while more tolerable than in Continental Drift and Collision Course, are unlikable since they act spoiled towards Ellie because they want more freedom. Also, while they are made smarter than the last 2 films, with their intelligence being less like Season 6 through 8 Patrick Star and more like Season 1, 15, 31 President Bart Simpson, they are ignorant of their own species. To prove this to you, both of the possums think that they are not mammals until Buck told them they were. They also annoy Z a lot for her name, and even attempt to hijack Buck's bone boat and bought some poisonous fruit that they were about to see during the boat scene. Although, they do become likable after Buck is being captured by Orson. So they, Z, and Mama Dino can escape as they start to have actual character development after that scene. Like, really? Why would they become spoiled? They are not spoiled. They are just friends to care about Ellie. God, this is just stupid. They also destroyed Manny, Sid, and Diego's habitat while also disobeying Ellie, even if she had the reason as to why she wanted to keep Crash and Eddie safe. Like, why would they destroy their habitat? They should not destroy their own habitat. They're just smart and intelligent possums, not just stupid and spoiled possums. God, this is so stupid. I hated this. Well, the character Sid, who acts very odd character in this film, showing little to no care for Crash and Eddie to the point of making uncalled for comments about them being dead, such as, I don't mean to be a negative Nancy, but they have been gone a while. Should we just be looking for bones at this point? And face it, guys, Crash and Eddie have been gone bye-bye. They totally disappeared without trace, which he would have never said in the first 3 films, which, why would he say that? It felt like it's heartless when he is probably doesn't care about Crash and Eddie and make fun of them. Like, why would he do that, man? And also, he also ruins all the emotional moments of the movie, tries to have such as Ellie's backstory about Mother Opossum and Ellie's encounter with the possums at the end by saying, you know, I lost my mama too. Well, technically, she moved away without leaving a forwarding address. But then I found Manny here, and then when Diego comes along and tried to kill us, we knew we were destined to be a family. Which, why would he say that? Man, he should not said that. He should said something different. Like, say some good things about them, man. As well as, aw, I love family reunions, but there's no buffet, so time to head home. Like, why would you tell them to head home? Don't you tell them what to do. Just let them do whatever they want, man. And for the performance of Jake Green, it was annoying and a terrible attempt at impersonating John Leguizamo's voice doesn't help either. Which, why would they pick that actor who does a terrible attempt at Sid's voice? Use John Leguizamo back as Sid on this movie. Not this actor, man. God. Manny, Diego, and Ellie, while likable, are pointless and feel like they, along with Sid, are only in the movie to give Crash and Eddie a reason to go to the Lost World, which, why? They should give us more for Manny, Diego, and Ellie. Not just giving us some short running time for them. Give us some long running time for them, man. God. Mama Dino, while likable as well, and it's great to see her returning, also feels pointless. Even helping others, giving Manny, Sid, Diego, and Ellie a ride to Watering Hole. This is only in the movie to pander nostalgia for older fans. Her reuniting with Sid, Manny, Diego, and Ellie is also very bland as she and Sid see each other again for more than 20 years. Like, why? Why would they do this as to pander to nostalgia? It doesn't make any sense. And I like when they bring her back. But still, man. And don't even talk about the babies they raised together. Granted, they had to rush to the watering hole because Buck, Z, and Crash were in danger. But still, like, why would they don't talk about the babies? They should talk about the babies during that scene, man. God! Well, the concept of a talking dinosaur named Orson that wants to rule the Lost World is interesting, especially so that Buck can have an evil counterpart, wants to kill Mama Dino and take over her territory so that he can become king of the Lost World and wants revenge for his tooth. However, Orson, he is a really weak villain. Only wants to rule the Lost World because of reasons. Besides, the only main reason why he wants to rule is that he said that dinos rule, mammals drool. On top of that, he is mostly a ripoff of Dave from Penguins of Madagascar, the movie, and Koto from All Hail King Julian Exiled, which I haven't seen the show yet. I have known the characters through research, but I'll watch the show someday, hopefully, but only did the characters for research. But still, so yeah. But unlike those two who were imitating yet entertaining at the same time, Orson fails horribly at being either of them. Plus, the fact that his huge brain really can be seen out of his head can be really disturbing for young viewers. Like, why? Why would you pick this villain? Well, I was hoping for this villain to be good, but turns out it goes downhill. I don't like this villain, man. God. During the scene where Crash and Eddie dream about their home, the sequence tries way too hard to be wearable to the youths by including some rap music in the background, having one of the possums dabbing, and both Crash and Eddie dancing to the music. However, it was only a brief moment until the post-credit scene, which had the same dabbing scene. Like, really? Why would you show the dabbing scene? The dabbing needs to die already. I already hate the dabbing scene. It's so freaking cringe. Just stop it, man. God. Well, there were heaps of continuity errors, despite supposedly taking place after collision course due to Ellie recapping the events of the previous films. For some reason, Sid and Diego are single, which causes the Ice Age timeline to go over the place. Here are some examples of this. If this were to take place before Continental Drift, due to Sid and Diego being single, then how come Peaches is non-existent? She didn't just magically disappear. Like, why would they do this? Why would you make Peaches out of existence? We need to know what happened to her, man. And also, why would she magically disappeared? She only exists in the Ice Age franchise, man. God. During the scene where Crash and Eddie went to visit Buck's cave, Buck still has his pumpkin daughter from Collision Course, despite this film seemingly taking place before the 5th Ice Age boost guide made. Like, why would he still have his pumpkin daughter? He should use something different, like the skeleton bones puppets instead, man. God. Also, the ending is quite confusing. Crash and Eddie decide to stay with Buck, where the films after Dawn of the Dinosaurs depict Crash and Eddie still living with Manny and company in the art films. However, Crash and Eddie said that they are going to visit Manny's herd, though this still doesn't really make any sense, especially considering Buck's absence in Continental Drift. Like, why? Why would they pick this? They should show Crash and Eddie's visit in a movie, not just leave it as a background, man. God. During the events of Dawn of Dinosaurs, Buck destroys a dinosaur bridge that leads to the Lost World. Yet, when Crash and Eddie go to the Lost World, the bridge somehow does not exist. Like, why? Why? Why would they make the bridge disappear? They should show what happened to the bridge, man. Buck has been a loner most of his time, so having him get a family feels off. Crash and Eddie didn't just live with Buck forever and see, didn't even live with Buck when he was introduced into Collision Course after having a brief cameo in Continental Drift. Like, really? Why would he have a family? This doesn't make any sense. He should have been lonely, man. God. During the scene when Crash and Eddie find it weird seeing Orson speak because he's a dinosaur. They don't have a problem with the dino birds from Collision Course talking despite also being dinos as well. Like, why would they say it's weird that Orson can't speak? They should not have a problem with him, man. God. At the end of Continental Drift, Manny and the gang move to a new land at the end. But how is the Lost World connected to this land? Like, why is it connected? Seriously, why is it connected? This doesn't make any zero sense, man. And also, it can't seem to tell if it wants to be canon to Ice Age or not overall. Like, this should have been canon to the Ice Age franchise, not without canon, man. God. And also, there's a plot hole in the movie. Like, there's a scene where Crash and Eddie go to the Lost World to see the dinosaurs. Crash said that he remembered a Brachiosaurus that is allergic to possums, while they're actually a Brachiosaurus in dinosaurs. When it was ever said that he had possum allergy, like, why would he had possum allergy? He doesn't have possum allergy. It doesn't make any sense. God. Well, this movie feels more like a backdoor pilot to a non-canon / different timeline Ice Age anime series, or at least a direct-to-video film. It also can't seem to decide where it can be a Buck spin-off movie, the 6th Ice Age movie, a reboot, a sequel to Dawn of Dinosaurs, or even Crash and Eddie spin-off movie. Like, I would say this, in my opinion, it should decide to be a Buck spin-off movie, not just a Crash and Eddie movie, man. God! The film doesn't start and end with a scratch scene, unlike the art films and the specials, due to Disney losing the rights to the character. Like, why would they get rid of him? They should have bring him back for this movie, not just get rid of him, man. Well, the humor tends to fall flat, and the attempts at humor aren't anywhere as funny as the first 3 Ice Age movies. Like, why would they use this type of humor? They should have bring back the original humor from the previous movies and use it back in this movie. Man. Ellie's flashback scene, while awesome and more explored than in The Meltdown, feels out of place for a movie that's supposed to be a spin-off about Buck. It would have fit more in a movie from the main saga. Like, why would they put it in a spin-off? They should have used it in the main saga, not just a spin-off. I know it's awesome, but it feels out of place. It's mixed to me, to be honest, man. It was released the day after International Holocaust Remembrance Day, which is inappropriate and nonsensical release date for an anime movie regarding prehistoric animals. This film would have been better on March 25th, 2022, so if the same day the film is going to be released in Europe and Asia, why would they release it in the US, Latin America, and Canada? Like, why would they delay that? They should have put the same release date as the US, Canadian, and Latin America for the international world at the same time, man. Not just delay it, man. When Buck talked about his partners getting killed off by Orson, neither Buck nor Z mentions or talks about the Iguanodon, Charlie Corterum, or the rest of the partners that died during Buck's backstory. Like, to me, for that, it feels like this is confusing. They should have mentioned that about the Iguanodon, Charlie Corterum, and the partners on what happened to them after they died. Man. The dialogue is laughably awkward. Like Orson saying, we're going to have to play a little game called Drop Goes the Weasel. It means take down Buck. Like, why would they use that? He should have said something different. And the line, Drop Goes the Weasel, it feels like a ripoff too, Pop goes the weasel. Why would you rip off that, man? While the score by rookie composer Batu Center was fine, it's easily the weakest of the franchise. Like, the score to me, it was fine, but it's the weakest. It's a mixed bag to me. The climax fight scene between Orson and the protagonist feels off due to the budget that animation goes for. There is nothing exciting about the fight scene since the movements are pretty bad looking. Like, this fight scene for me, it was not good and it went downhill. It was so really bad. Why? It's because of the animation of the budget was. It was really bad, man. The direction from John C. Duncan, it was bad. Makes it seem that all of his work on the production of Dawn of the Dinosaurs has been completely forgotten or non-existent. Like, man, why would you pick this director? They should have picked a different director who is so good than that director, man. God. The film's pacing was rather poorly done for not being so big, making the pacing of any product in the franchise better than the films. Like, for the pacing for me, it was really bad. They should have done the pacing really well, not just do the pacing really bad, man. Well, the character Z, while great new character, and David Twohy, the saving grace of the movie, looks nothing like a Zorilla. Instead, she looks more like a ferret, a meerkat, or an otter. In fact, she looks more like a weasel than Buck himself, although her design is admittedly cute. Like, I don't like how she does look like that. She should have made her look like a Zorilla, not just made her like that, man. Overall, this film made the Ice Age franchise look like nothing but being milked up to 11. To the point, in a possible future, just like Family Guy, the fans might start to hate the Ice Age franchise as a whole, which I'm on their fan sides, which I have enough of the Ice Age franchise. It used to be good, but now, after Continental Drift and Collision Course, it just went downhill for now. Alright, so that's it for the bad qualities. Now let's get on to my final thoughts on this movie. Alright, so I gotta say, for the Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild, it was an okay movie, but it's rather a mixed bag, and it's kinda slightly better than the Collision Course, trying to attempt to get back into the nostalgia and the roots of the original films, but it's poorly executed and failed goofily, man. And it's one of the worst movies I've seen in my entire life from 2022. So yeah. So that is why I'm gonna give the Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild a 5 out of 10. It's an okay movie, but it's a rather mixed bag, and it's one of the worst movies I've seen in my entire life from 2022. And it's slightly better than Ice Age Collision Course. So yeah. But anyways, thank you guys for watching for my movie review / rant on the Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild. What do you guys think of the movie, and what's your opinion on this movie? Well, for me, it was an okay movie, but it's rather mixed bag, and it's one of the worst movies I've seen in my entire life from 2022. And it's slightly better than Ice Age Collision Course. So yeah. Alright, so my next movie review, or should I say, a series review. Why? Because the next up will be Ice Age Scrat Tales, because it's way better than Adventures of Buck Wild, and I'll review it after this video. So yeah. But anyways, thank you guys for watching for my review / rant, and I'll see you all next time. Peace out, boys.